Okay? So, we've major updates to vRealize Suite. It's an extension of the vCloud Suite, so for non-vSphere environments, as well as we've introduced a new packaged offering called vRealize Operations Insight, which brings together what I just talked about, the ability of VCOps, as well as Log Insight, or now we refer to as vRealize Operations and vRealize Log Insight, into one unified bundle and integration called vRealize Ops Insight. All right, so with that, I actually want to shift gears and actually highlight kind of one of the conversations that I tend to have quite often when I'm on the road speaking to customers. And usually it's centered around trying to help the infrastructure team who's building a private cloud be able to relate and have a conversation with the app dev team or the DevOps team and how they can work better together. In fact, I've been on the road already for, I don't know, 7, 8 days, I think it was, from New York to London to Amsterdam to here. And across all those environments, from CIOs to VPs to actual end users, this is a common theme that comes up quite a bit, which is we want to be able to provide a PaaS-like experience for our development and operations team and be able to be more agile in the delivery of infrastructure services or infrastructure as a service and be able to iterate more rapidly on their deployment of applications. So with that, I want to introduce Marc Masnik, or Vanna as I call him. For those that are not in the US, Vanna was a talk show host who used to spin a wheel.
Hello,
Marc,
there,
thank
Ramin.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, go ahead and set it up for us for a second. So as Marc's flipping through, the scenario we're going to walk you through here is where, again, I'm playing the VP of App Dev. Marc's going to play the Cloud Admin. And in this case, the customer has had a new project where they're building a new application, and it's called Project Phoenix. And it's a new web scale app, and it's deployed in the public cloud, but we have some challenges around that and how we go about developing and releasing this application. Ready?
Absolutely. So listen, I understand you've got your team using Amazon Web Services for dev and test on your new Phoenix app, and you've got a whole series of DevOps tools and test frameworks, and then you want to bring it back into your private data center for production and for staging. I just want to let you know we can do that. We can help you with that, Ramin.
Okay, so how is that? Because as you may know or may not know, I can't deal with the 6-month release cycles and 12-month release cycles, the normal stuff you force me to do, which is exactly why my developers don't want to work with you and they go outside, right? You know, we have a new strategy here as we're developing Project Phoenix, and it's all about simplicity. They want minimal viable product. They want to do rapid iterations, not just monthly, weekly, and daily.
Yeah, I understand that need for speed, and you know, I think it's really, really important, Ramin, but you have to understand there's the right kind of controls that need to be put in place, because really at the end of the day, you want your Project Phoenix to be known for all that goodness and boosting earnings, not in all the problems it might cause when it's out there, you know?
Okay, but don't take this the wrong way. I've heard that story before, and it's not just about VM provisioning, so what can you really do for my team now?
Well, what do you really need?
Well, I need to be able to provision the entire stack across compute, network, storage, not just the VM, but also the entire middleware stack, so I can get the development environment set up much more quickly and be able to manage it through the lifecycle of dev to system to UAT to system integration tests and prod. And frankly, I just don't know, and you guys really understand that can help me.
Hey, you know, we have implemented this new cloud management platform from VMware, and really it was purpose-built for the situation that you're describing, that hybrid cloud that you need. So it allows us to automate the delivery of both the infrastructure and the application, and it'll apply this intelligent operations on top of that, as well as give us costing of each of those services. So you got to trust me. This is going to be great, Ramin.
Yeah, right. You said that to me before, but I'm not sure I can really trust you. You got to prove it. And do it.
Well, so give me a little bit of background on the environment.
Okay, so you may or may not know, we've standardized our tools. We use Git.
Okay.
You heard of that tool?
Yeah, I know Git.
Right.
I know Git.
We use another tool called Jenkins. You familiar with that one?
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. But from there, actually using Selenium to do all our testing, and then we use JMeter as another tool, and that's the tool of choice for the QE teams that are brought together with the dev teams. So we have this new DevOps model where there's no real formal QE anymore. Those teams have been merged, and they're constantly doing iterations and builds across various environments. So again, it's not just about the virtual machine spinning up.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, Ramin, this is no problem. We can automate all of that and provision your dev test stacks on Amazon. We can automate any public cloud service you really want, and then do the exact same thing again in your production data center.
Okay. So, but it doesn't just stop there, though, Marc, because once we do all that, and which is all in the public cloud on Amazon, I actually want to bring it back in-house and be able to do system tests and scale tests and be able to do assurances on that and then move it to production. So the way we're actually doing that is we're using another tool. I'm not even sure you've heard of it. It's called Artifactory.
Yeah, okay.
So it's the binary repository that actually allows us to tie into our custom scripts and be able to manage the deployment from Artifactory all the way through the rest of the environment. So how can you help with that?
Well, look, my goal for you is to have consistency in that release process through every one of those phases. And that way we'll reduce the number of support calls to all of your engineers, and they can really get to work building new code and new features. You know, quality code's important to you, right, Ramin?
What, are you serious?
Well, our CMP solution gives us a clear picture of the costs, as well as it can give us all of the visibility into cost containment also. You do care about cost containment, right?
Yeah, if I knew what it cost me. Can you help with that?
Absolutely, we can help with that. I've been looking around at all the things I can do, but you got to start somewhere.
Okay.
All right.
Can you show me?
Sure.
So starting in dev, you know, we're using Amazon, right? And we want to be able to manage it across the environment. So how can you help with, you know, the Git instance I have and the traditional Jenkins sprawl that we've had issues with, and be able to move from the stack on Amazon across the environment?
Absolutely. So even in Amazon, what we can do is, you know, for you, it still takes you days sometimes to get that whole infrastructure deployed and to configure each one of those stacks. So what we can do with vRealize automation is we can actually automate that entire process so your developers can get a fresh stack in Amazon each time, every time.
God, I got to be honest with you, I'm still confused because I know VMware, but all I think VMware could do is just provision VMs and manage VMs. So how do you do this?
No, let me show you. It's more than that. So here's a start. This is the developer portal that we set up for your team. And what you can see here is that we can allow your team to develop that stack they need onto an Amazon instance, and they can use it either for long-term, or you can set it up by policy so that it tears down automatically after they're done.
So I noticed that Amazon thing, is that real?
Absolutely, yeah.
What does it do?
What does it do? Well,
so if I click on that, or I have my developers click on that, how does it work?
Yeah, so what they're able to do is they're able to choose the right size of their environment based on policy, and they can then configure that environment based on whichever of the stacks they need, as well as then apply an API call so that they can plug it right into their automatic deployment system.
Okay, that's great. So you can automate the provisioning, and that helps save time and potentially some money. But it doesn't really address my need for the faster development iteration, right?
Relax, Ramin, it gets better.
All right, well, tell me.
So this is the good news. We've got the vRealize code stream now implemented in our cloud management platform, and that's going to allow us to leverage all that investment in letting your team stand up that infrastructure, but now allow it to tie into their existing dev and test tools.
vRealize code stream, all right, what is that?
Well, so what this does is it streamlines not only that infrastructure build out, but also gives you the control and visibility into the end-to-end deployment of both the stack and the code sitting on top of it.
Okay, so you can manage the different instances, environments I have, and the ability to migrate from dev to UAT to system integration to prod?
That's exactly right.
All right, cool. But I still don't believe you. Can you show me?
Why don't we show you? So what you're going to see here is CodeStream's going to be able to pick up your latest code build starting right into your test environment.
All right.
Okay? So what does that look like? So what we have here is your 4-stage process. So test, UAT, load, staging, production. And what we can do is we can set up what happens in each one of these different phases, whether it's initialize, whether it's deployment, whether it's the testing and the actions you need. And then between each of those stages, we have our gate. And at our phase gate, we can determine what has to have occurred in order for us to move on to the next phase.
Cool.
So the idea here is that CodeStream gives you the consistency in process as well as the governance and visibility of what's going on in every release in your environment.
That kind of looks cool, but does it really work?
Well, you know, here you can see how that has been deployed and how it's been configured against our Amazon instance. And what we can see here is that it calls into Jenkins, if you look down there in the variable properties, and it goes ahead and pushes that latest build.
Nice. Okay, that's great. So CodeStream can reuse a lot of the capabilities that you already showed, but can you actually use what my developers and my admins want with respect to Puppet? Because you know that's pretty pervasive in our environment.
Oh, sure, yeah, it's great. If you have Puppet already configured and the devs are already comfortable using it, we can integrate that right into CodeStream. And that can work if they're storing it on the Puppet Forge or if they're using it in a private repository.
Nice.
Yeah, so
finally you're speaking my language.
I'm trying, Ramin, I'm trying.
You kind of look like it, but.
Yeah, you know. So let's take a look here. This is your stack blueprint, and this is how it would be visualized so that each of your developers were familiar with exactly what was going to underline their code. In a case where we're using Puppet, it's as simple as us adding in the Puppet manifest callouts right here inside this same design.
Got it.
And so every time they deploy that stack, it will just call out to the Puppet configuration and allow Puppet to manage that. So you'll get that rock-solid consistency and exactly what your environment will look like every time.
Wow, I didn't know you guys could actually do something to help me for once.
Hey, we're trying.
Okay.
So here what we see is actually what it would look like after it's completed a successful deployment. You can see there all the nice green check boxes.
Yeah, green is good, right?
And here is exactly where we would configure all the test actions. So you were talking about moving through those different phases.
Right.
Here we're seeing where it calls out to Selenium and is able to test plan against.
Okay.
And
test
complete.
Looks successful, right? So what's next then?
So we do the same thing in UAT, we do the same thing in test, and we apply those same philosophies to that for the consistency you're looking for. And in pre-production and staging, we can then do all the integrations into your ERP system or your load balancer configurations.
Yeah, it's actually really important, as you know, because I had to move that app that we started in Amazon, bring it back in, and then connect it to my ERP system, right? So
that's right.
You can manage that across those environments with one blueprint or a set of blueprints?
It's one blueprint, and we just apply the different configuration as we move through those.
So I don't have the blueprint sprawl stuff.
No blueprint sprawl. Okay. That doesn't work. We know that.
So you have consistency across all these phases and process. Nice.
Yeah, that's right. And so then we get all the way out to production, and we do it exactly like we did it in every other step. So the developers are seeing a real consistency across the process.
I see that, okay.
You know, and really the goal here is that's going to reduce those support calls to your developers, and they can keep writing features instead of, fixing bugs.
Yeah, touche. All right, sounds good.
And so we have a record, as you can see here, a record of every release cycle as it goes through the process, so we can have that transparency of exactly what happens in your dev release process.
Okay.
By the way, I also heard that you've been seeing some of those AWS bills come in, and they're maybe a little larger than you thought they should be. Maybe a little bit of extra, test environment left out there.
How did you hear about that?
Yeah, well, when they talk about DevOps, that's developers and ops working close together, so we hear lots of different stuff. Yeah, it's good.
So, okay, can you do anything about it?
Well, actually, I think that you do need to know how much these cost you. Do you know how much they cost you?
No, do you?
I do.
All right, how?
So what we've done here is we've implemented the business management portion of the cloud management platform. And in this particular case, we can actually see exactly what the costs are, not only for your private cloud and for AWS, but also you heard about VCHS, so what's now called vCloud Air, right?
Yeah, that's that service thing they announced, right?
Yeah, that's VMware's public cloud. So you can actually see the costing of any of your services and what your dev teams are using across them. You might want to actually consider that vCloud Air. It's about 30% cheaper according to these price guides from your Amazon payments.
Really? Sounds interesting. Can we try it?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the great news again about using this type of a process with CodeStream is you can literally just change the configuration of any of the phases to point at that infrastructure. So take what was pointing at Amazon and point now over to the vCloud Air. And this will provision, still use all those same Puppet manifests that we talked about earlier, and be able to apply the same configurations for our particular phase. Oh, and the good news also is we can add in a lot of additional monitoring for your developers, because we know they really like to see what's going on, particularly when they get to load testing. So here's a good example of how we've been able to integrate in visibility to the vApp performance, the virtual data center, also looking at even the vCloud Air infrastructure instances. And you can release those resources back when you're done if you don't need them after the load test.
Those little skittle things.
The little skittle things are your health indicators.
Oh.
You like them?
If they're sweet, green.
If they're green, exactly. So, this is about us giving you better visibility so the developers have a much better understanding of what they're trying to do in the environment and what they're trying to load test.
Nice. So you can baseline it across the various environments and then be able to ascertain when we move from dev to UAT to system integration and across various public cloud platforms if there's any variance in that service.
That's exactly right.
Nice. All right. Cool. So what else can you do for me, though?
Well, I think the most important question now is what happens when you actually want to put this thing out in front of your customers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically we've got release engineers, and we need those release engineers to be, they need to be paying attention because let's be honest, production can be complicated. Lots and lots of things can go wrong. I know that your developers are off sitting in their coffee shop, coding away, making the next greatest feature, and they don't always appreciate that. But you got to be careful.
Yeah, like I thought. You guys are a bunch of control freaks.
Well, so listen, I know that's the way you look at it. I know that's your opinion. But the bottom line is what we try and do here is give all the freedom to your developers to move through the process. And then at the right places, perhaps when you're doing a new project like Project Phoenix, we can implement a manual check for that release engineer so they can just make sure that everything's in alignment. There's so many different variables in a production environment that one has to consider. And this just allows us to give them that final approval and the final release before it goes out into production.
Got it.
Now, of course, in your developer perfect world, when everything goes great for 5, 6, 7 weeks, then we can actually release that and have it be an automated flow all the way through the process, and that will be really continuous integration.
Okay, so they don't need to go through you guys anymore for that?
At that point, all we'll do is we'll notify the people that are interested when they want to know, and they'll be really using a continuous development pipeline.
Awesome. Looks great. Glad to see that you guys are being a little bit more proactive and actually helping us deliver and release these applications finally. So I think I get it now. That's exactly what my team's been complaining about, but also wanting. But our current process is pretty fragmented, as you've kind of figured out. And with the infrastructure as a service and the code stream capabilities, it's clear to me that this allows us to kind of execute our MVP, our minimal viable product. But what else can we do when we move from UAT to prod? How can you assure that?
Sure. Well, again, I think another thing that we can really provide you through the cloud management platform is we know your developers love dashboards. They love to see exactly what's going on in their applications. So here what you can see is the Phoenix app that's been put out into production, and we've got it all metered up with everything from our NSX networking metrics to the application services themselves, even active connections and packets coming in there from NSX. And so we'll be able to really monitor this, and the developers will have a lot more visibility into what they're doing with their application right as they go through this deployment model.
That looks great.
Yeah.
So now we're ready to roll out. So we've rolled it into production. So I guess we're done?
We're done. I'll
Nice.
see you in a few weeks.
Perfect.
Okay.
So it's been a couple weeks, and I got to tell you, I'm amazed.
It's looking great.
Well, it's not just looking great. You actually delivered on what you said you were going to do. I thought you were reading all the marketing literature, but it actually works. Secondly, you actually helped us increase the number of builds and releases to production that we didn't anticipate having to do because that minimal viable product? Whole point is to iterate fast and get feedback. Well, we had to iterate a lot faster than we thought and get more releases out. So we were actually able to iterate fast and get releases out. We put 2 unplanned builds out, and it actually was able to spike our revenue. So that was great.
Fantastic. I'm really, really glad that it was a great hit. And I definitely think that's something you would have never been able to do before with your traditional model. There's no question. So we set up a production dashboard, as you saw. So should we take a look and just see what's going on there?
Sure, why not?
Fantastic.
Whoa. Why is it red?
Well, it looks like you might be having some production problems, Ramin. All that success you're having, looks like maybe we're seeing some issues with the traffic going a little higher than perhaps we expected in our load testing.
Red's not good, Marc. What are we going to do about it?
Well, let's go ahead. Let's keep cool. It's all right. It's what us ops people are trained to do. So let's go ahead and click down on that alert and just see what we can find out.
All right.
So it looks like, as is pretty typically the case, there's a few things going on here, Ramin, and it looks like we've got some, Apache requests per minute that are far in excess of what we'd expected on our servers. Yeah. We're also seeing NSX report back with high numbers of connections into the load balancers, and it does look like perhaps the log files are showing us a few too many HTTP 500 errors.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Well, let's drill down a little further here. And one of the great things we're able to do now with this new cloud management platform is we can drill in context into Log Insight and take a look. And we can really see that, yeah, absolutely, we've got this huge spike in the HTTP 500s. That means that we're probably seeing a problem with just the amount of load that our web nodes can take.
Okay.
So here's the good news. One of the new features in the vRealize automation suite is it allows us to actually post a recommendation right here in this dashboard. And we can see here that it's recommending we scale out the web tier.
Really? OK. So does that mean you can do it?
Yeah. Shall we?
Sure. Why not? Let's try.
OK, let's do it. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is click on the Add Components. And we're going to be able to select a number of nodes that we want to add in. And again, we're using the exact same framework that deployed that infrastructure earlier. Okay. And in this particular case, we'll go ahead and add a couple of nodes, 2, and click the Submit. And the great news is that the vRealize Automation Suite will actually manage all the configuration for us, the NSX networking configurations, IP allocations, everything else that needs to happen to the load balancers. It's automatically in the process when we add the nodes because of the blueprint. Okay?
Nice. Okay.
So that integration makes it really, really easy. But I think what I'm trying to show you here, Ramin, is it's the combination of that intelligent operations, finding these issues before they become a real problem, and then tying it back into the automation that's really good.
OK.
And so there it is. This is it showing us that we had a successful request to go ahead and submit that change.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
OK.
And look at that. We're back at our dashboard.
Green is good. I like the Skittle ones better than that thing.
Yep, you've got your OS metrics here. You've got your NSX metrics. You've got CPU workloads. They're all green again. So we've obviously cleared it out by just popping a couple more nodes on our web tier.
You've distributed a load across those servers. Everything's green now, so we can deal with the higher volume of traffic coming in. That's awesome. OK, I'm really impressed. You guys have really come a long way.
No way.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So you can deploy and manage the infrastructure on-prem. You're able to also do that in the cloud, right? And then you also showed me when we didn't configure something properly, we can actually scale it and change the configuration. And then you actually, most importantly, able to show me how you can manage that environment and deployment across from a continuous build integration all the way through deployment and back, inclusive of even code and configuration updates, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. So, I'm glad that you're happy with all of that. It seems like the continuous deployment's really working.
Yeah, it seems like it, but I'm used to paying for more and better service. So is this really going to cost me more, or?
Well, no. I mean, I think I can prove to you that you're getting what you want and what you're paying for. We'll look here at the business management aspect of the cloud management platform and really give you the visibility into seeing exactly how much you're spending on your cloud, both private and public.
Oh, yeah, it's that tool you showed me before. So what does it actually show you? What does it actually do for me?
Well, what it does is it's pulling in all the costing from any of these clouds, including AWS here, and it'll actually show you exactly how you are consuming and how much you're paying for that cloud consumption, so that you can keep an eye on sprawl both from an operational and from a business point.
So you're able to aggregate all the AWS spend, pull that in, and then compare it to what I've actually deployed on-prem, and then show a cost comparison or cloud cost comparison across the two?
Yeah.
Nice.
And so what we really do here is we also do demand analysis. So you can actually see by project exactly who's consuming what and how they're utilizing it. So here you've got automation that's going to increase the agility for you and your development teams to deliver your projects on time. You're going to have the efficiency to keep your costs down. And then obviously you're going to have the control and the visibility to make sure that it's reliable and that you're maintaining low risk across all aspects of your project.
So better service, lower cost. Like, what's not to like about this? That's pretty cool. But can you make sure you keep that report to us?
Yeah, absolutely, Ramin.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks very much, Marc. Thanks for all your help. Good job. Thanks.